difficult to keep the pressure and conviction on the polls?
The key was preparation. There was quite a bit of work that we did before the elections in partnership, working with bipartisan teams, developing procedures, thinking through every step of the process. I think that the early voting helped in terms of the stress on the polling places, but having uniform poll worker training, especially in the 53 counties where we were using the touchscreen machines, where you can see in other states they experience extremely long lines. Having the backup paper ballots in the 2 lines did help alleviate some of that stress. Interestingly enough, my brother is in South Carolina. He got to the polling place in South Carolina right when the polls opened and had to catch a 10 o'clock plane to New York City. He was disenfranchised because of long lines, because there were no backup paper ballots available, and he was not able to wait in line long enough to vote in South Carolina.
What can you say about the success of the night for you and your administration, given that the polls didn't close late, and were even challenged in court to keep them?
The success of our administration with the way the election went today, this was the product of much preparation, much partnership with the boards of elections, much hard work, and an emphasis on taking new laws, complex laws that didn't always work together, and developing methods to implement them so that the interests of the voters were kept first in mind.
Secretary, the early voting rehearsal worked, and then on the big night, it doesn't work. Can you reverse engineer what the heck happened?
John, I'm sorry, can you clarify that question for me? I'm having trouble hearing you.
On the early voting, you had a rehearsal where they did the T1 line and the passwords. Basically, I assume the rehearsal worked on recording of the early voting, and then on the big night we've had delays. Have you been able to figure out, how they could get it right on rehearsal and not?
You're talking about the rehearsal on the logging in. You need to understand the diversity of the counties in the state of Ohio. Some counties do better than others in dealing with some of the technical issues. And with the rehearsals in some of the counties, it wasn't smooth sailing each time. I mean, we have some counties, for instance, I can go to Hocking County, and literally the office for the Board of Elections is in the courthouse in what used to be the ladies' restroom and lounge. And it is a very, very small area. If I go to Morgan County, they don't have enough funding from their county commissioners to have 2 full-time employees, and by law they're required to have a director and a deputy director. So that doesn't necessarily reflect the level of their technological expertise. Of 88 different counties, and an election that's run by 45,000 essentially citizen volunteers who get paid very little. It is a feat of democracy that sometimes doesn't go as smoothly as it would if you were dealing with a computer-run operation at an airport or a bank. There were some problems that I'm aware of in Ohio County with provisional ballots in terms of people being required to vote provisionally, and perhaps their ID would have been sufficient for them to vote a regular ballot. Looking at the history of provisional ballots, they first were developed with the Motor Voter Act as a means to allow people who moved to be able to change their registration and still vote on election day. When voter ID started taking hold across the country, it became another way to push people into provisional ballots. Originally, provisional ballots were meant to be a safety net or a fail-safe so that everyone would have a chance to vote. And unfortunately, the effects of voter identification, while if you look at the Indiana lawsuit that went to the U.S. Supreme Court, there didn't seem to be enough evidence for one argument or the other, but the Supreme Court allowed that to stand because of the potential for fraud, but with no real proof of fraud. ID does have its benefits, but on the other hand, the way that it's been melded into the Ohio statute, in some ways, has forced more people into provisional voting. Fortunately, electionline.org conducted a study of a number of states, and the incidence of the validation of provisional ballots in Ohio was the second highest in the country that they studied, with Delaware being the highest and Ohio being at 80%. But what we were aiming to do with this election, and will continue to do with our boards of elections, is to ensure that everyone possible has the opportunity to vote a regular ballot, and that the provisional ballot is not used as simply a way to avoid dealing with situations that may be more complicated, but the person still has the right to vote a regular ballot. Yes?